She offered food, without asking, what they gave her in return. Made the news. Every Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Abuela Inés would force her shaky cart to make its way past the rumbling building site on Cedar Street. The insulated box that her late husband had left behind was filled with sizzling empanadas de picadillo, which are golden pockets of meat that has been flavored with raisins and olives. Since he had passed away, she had been making them on a weekly basis. "To keep his hands busy in heaven," she would whisper. Today, however, the rain was slicing the pavement, and 3 workers were huddled together beneath a homemade tent, shivering over sandwiches that were cold. Inés abandoned her course without uttering a single word. The handle of the cart caused her knuckles to become white. In a quiet voice, she said, "Are you happy?" Prior to their ability to respond, she positioned 3 empanadas on a clean napkin and placed it on top of a utility box. The atmosphere was moist, but the aroma of cumin and fried bread pierced through it. "For your huesos," she called out with a grin while touching her own bones. "Souls get cold faster." In order to clean his hands, Mateo, the youngest worker, wiped grease-stained palms on his pants. "Señora, we can't." "Ya comí," she claimed while rubbing her stomach. "They'll only gossip in my fridge." After many weeks, this became a routine. We did not exchange names. Nothing except empanadas and a few bashful nods from Mateo, Leo, whose eyebrows wrinkled as he bit into the pie, and Javier, who usually spared half of the pastry for his daughter. Even though they were transferring 90% of their earnings to Oaxaca, Inés was unaware that they were illegal. They were unaware that she had to ration insulin in order to purchase the meat. On a chilly morning in March, Inés's wagon disappeared without a trace. Not stolen, it was replaced. A stainless steel cart that had been manufactured to her specifications waited outside her apartment, shining brightly in the streetlight. Awning that can roll back. There are thermal chambers. The words "Empanadas de Inés" are illuminated by solar-powered lights. A single empanada bag, which was grease-stained from being handled by familiar hands, was tied to the handle. Inside, a letter written in Spanish with more care. "Javier is the welder in the family. As an engineer, Leo. I am a coder. Our optimism was fueled by your empanadas. Feed the city in luxury at this moment. With due respect, your construction grandsons are described as tus nietos de la construcción in Spanish." But it wasn't the cart that was the secret. While Inés was crying upon the polished steel, Leo was recording her response on his phone, which was also broken. A local Facebook group was the recipient of Mateo's post, which was titled, "Doña Inés Gets Her Miracle." It went off the rails. How come? The layers that are hidden, the code in the dough. Food historians noticed that Inés's empanadas were similar to a recipe from Veracruz that was 200 years old. This recipe has not been seen in Veracruz since a storm destroyed the region's annatto crops. In terms of cuisine, her rendition was a treasure trove. The Unseen Network. The employees had posted drawings that were crowdsourced on the internet. The thermal technology was supplied by a retired Italian baker. The awning was made by a seamstress who was a refugee from Syria. Up to this point, everything has been anonymized. A video that went viral was seen by Javier's daughter, Lucia, who is 8 years old. A crayon sketch of the cart, along with a voice bubble that said, "Aquí se venden abrazos," hugs sold here, was sent to Inés in the mail. Why it was featured on CNN, National Public Radio, and Buenos Dias America. Inés never sought for sympathy, rather she gave dignity, despite the fact that she was not a charity recipient. Instead of receiving monetary compensation, the workers were rewarded with inventiveness. Children all across the globe are now sending artwork to elderly people who are isolated as a result of Lucia's picture, which inspired the Cartas para Inés movement. Food anthropologists have started a GoFundMe campaign in order to preserve Inés's recipe, which is a cultural revelation. Her cart was given a request by the Smithsonian, At the unveiling, there was a swarm of media. Someone posed the question, "What is it like to be an icon?" The empanada was given to her by Inés. "It was caliente," she winked. "Eat it before the noticias get cold." What is the headline that endured? Tiny acts, giant echoes, how 3 empanadas rewired a town's heart. Because the most powerful revolutions often start not with a shout, but with the whisper of fried bread meeting hungry hands. This is because the whisper sometimes precedes the roar. It wasn't simply consumers who were drawn to the dazzling stainless steel cart, it also attracted pilgrims. Food bloggers were the first to arrive, and they took photographs of Inés's aged hands crimping dough as the lights were powered by solar energy. After that, historians came in and bent down to study the welded joints of the cart. They were looking for Javier's trademark swallow-shaped rivets, which were a tribute to his Mixtec origin. But when a lady with silver hair and a smart suit approached and said, "Soy del Smithsonian," Inés came dangerously close to dropping her rolling pin. She inhaled deeply and said, "Is it the museo?" The response that Dr. Elena Marquez gave was, "Sí, Doña Inés. The cart is ours to take, and the tale you tell. What's the catch? The Smithsonian Institution did not want it to be protected by glass." La Ruta de la Dignidad, the dignity route, was the name of the suggested radical idea that they put forth. Moving from Washington, District of Columbia, to migrant farm worker camps in California, Rust Belt kitchens in Ohio, and hurricane shelters in Puerto Rico, the cart would travel as a movable monument to the concept of mutual help. Recipes as a form of resistance. At each of the stops, residents would contribute a recipe from their family to the digital record. The cow peak of a Hmong grandma and the coney sauce of a Detroit auto worker were both tagged with GPS information that indicated the location where they were shared. Mateo, the unseen curator, was the one who programmed the touchscreen interface for the cart. Did he make his debut? A recipe for empanadas with the following label: Abuela Inés, Cedar Street. Fed 3 males who were not seen. The spirit of a city is fed. The shadows that are hidden behind the light. Then, fame has fangs. There was a sleek black SUV parked next to Inés's cart on a Tuesday that was raining. I was approached by a guy wearing mirrored sunglasses who flashed a badge that said, "Ice." "We are in search of Javier Martinez." The blood of Inés became ice cold. Someone named Javier had just given Lucia money to purchase new sneakers for school. Javier, who had welded swallow rivets onto her cart as a kind of prayer for a healthy and safe journey. What Inés did to fight back. These empanadas are the weapon. A picadillo that was still hot was pushed into the agent's fingers by her suddenly. "Pruebe," she continued, her voice shaking but still consistent. "Hecho con lágrimas y orgullo." Construction in tears and with pride. This is the network. On a pre-written email, Leo pressed the send button. Soon after, the hashtag #ProtectJavier became popular. The crayon sketch of the cart that his daughter Lucia had created went viral on Twitter, and it was reposted by chefs, politicians, and even a Star Wars star. In the sanctuary, Father O'Brien, a patron of St. Anne's who purchases empanadas on a monthly basis, makes his way to the cart while joining arms with Inés. "This," he said to the agent, "is holy ground." The consequences of not a single Javier was deported. Rather than that, he was fortunate enough to get an unexpected letter from the United States Department of Labor. The welding workmanship that he had done on the cart had been anonymously submitted to a nationwide competition for trades talents. He won. Who will win? A residence that is expedited. The message said, "You built more than metal, and you did so. You built hope." A recipe that successfully healed the unseen. It was around this time that food anthropologists discovered a startling finding. Among the ingredients of Inés's picadillo, which included cinnamon-kissed meat, saline olives, and plump raisins, was a kind of annatto seed that was considered to have been destroyed in the floods that occurred in Veracruz in the year 1840. However, the true magic was hidden deeper. An orange blossom water soak is a Sephardic Jewish method that Inés's great-grandmother acquired from a Syrian immigrant in Puebla in the 1920s. The raisins are soaked in orange blossom water, a hidden Oaxacan touch that Javier had given to her batch one week, but she was too embarrassed to tell her about it. Was that the olives were stuffed with chapulines, which are grasshoppers. This was not only a recipe, as the revelation revealed. In a single golden crescent, it was a living palimpsest, reflecting Mexico's multifaceted past, which included Arab, Jewish, indigenous, and Spanish history, among others. A GoFundMe campaign went viral. On the other hand, Inés declined to operate a restaurant. On the contrary, she initiated. The work is titled Las Mesas Invisibles, the Invisible Tables. Pop-up meals held in places such as fire stations, laundromats, and classrooms of night schools. The first rule is that there are no prices. Write a message to an invisible neighbor, such as a prisoner, a refugee, or an elderly person who lives alone, and pay for their meal. Rule number 2, cook together. Locals learn how to roll dough from migrant workers. Javier is the one who teaches CEOs how to toast chapulines. An envelope was presented to Inés by a CEO at the first meal. Inside are full scholarships for the coding boot camp that Lucia and Mateo are attending. It was written by him, "I've built towers, but you build altars." Why this story continues to be the focus of headlines. Empanada cart nominated for UNESCO heritage status. From ice target to national treasure, Javier's swallow rivets. The most poignant moment, however, was not captured on camera. Mateo, Leo, and Javier were waiting by her cart with their tools in hand when Inés discovered them one frosty morning. A travel-related dent appeared in the stainless steel, and the awning had become frayed. "What are they doing, children?" she inquired. "La mantenemos, abuela," Leo murmured to his mother. "It is in our care." As they worked, Inés came to the realization that the metal was never the focus of this cart, or the empanadas for that matter, or even the news itself. The obstinate and holy act of turning up was the focus of this discussion. Each and every week, several layers of dough, following the swallow rivet. During the time that Javier was polishing a scratch off the side of the cart, Inés noticed that her reflection was warping and shimmering, as if 100 faces were overlaying hers. She is a seamstress from Syria. This is the Italian baker. Lucia's grin made of crayon. It was suddenly clear to her what the real formula was. What is broken should be taken. You must fold it with bravery. Let it soar in the heat that is shared. The brightness that is contained there will be tasted by the world. Please take note that the narrative will continue since compassion is not a chapter. Rather, it is a stream. Despite this, Inés continues to carry her cart every Thursday. At this point, the queues are longer. You mean the first 3 empanadas, right? Always reserved for a soul that is trembling with fear behind a homemade covering. The fact of the matter is that when you allow space at the table for the unexpected, miracles will develop.